Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Manan. This is the fourth episode of a series of videos I am doing about life in Estonia as a foreigner. In this episode, we will be looking at the Estonian language. Specifically, these four topics we will cover. The first thing we will cover is a brief intro about Estonian language. The second thing we will get to know a little bit more is how difficult is Estonian language to learn. The third thing we will look at is, do you really need to learn Estonian language? And the fourth thing is, how can you learn Estonian if you are here in Estonia or you just generally like to learn things. So let's move into it. So, a brief intro about Estonian language. Now, Estonian language is very different from all the other languages that we generally know of. Now, most of the European languages belong to this language group called Indo-European. And Estonian, Finnish, and Hungarian are three very distinct languages that belong to another subgroup that is called the Finno-Ugric group. The thing is that generally, if you are learning any Indo-European languages, there are a lot of similarities that can help you learn that language. In the case of Estonian or Finnish or Hungarian, for example, all these similarities are not there. So let me put it this way. Basically, you will be starting from scratch. To give you a very simple example, the word no in almost all of the European languages has the word or the sound N in it. But in Estonian and Finnish, it's A, which is no N sound at all. Estonian is, well, generally spoken in Estonia. It is spoken by mainly 1.3 million people, which is roughly the population of Estonia. Estonian is a source of huge pride for Estonians. It's a beautiful language with melodic sounds, and it's no wonder that Estonia is characterized as a nation of singing people. To give you a personal example, I once happened to meet Estonian President Kersti Kaljulaid, and after greeting her and she greeting me, the first thing that she asked, how much Estonian do you know? And quite, well, a little bit ashamed, I replied, natukena, which means only a little bit. Okay, but that aside, we move on to the next topic, which is how difficult is Estonian language? If you look at the difficulty of Estonian, then the US state government has a webpage where they rank different languages according to the difficulty that it is to learn for their diplomats and other people. Estonian is characterized as one of the most difficult languages there. It's the fifth most difficult language. It takes about 1100 hours to master. Now, the reason why Estonian is so difficult is primarily because of the 14 noun cases that they have. In English, we don't have an idea of what a noun case means, but to give you a very simple example, I can say that there are a noun case basically represents a noun in relation to the subject and object in a sentence. So, for example, if I want to say train, then I would say the Estonian word rong. But if I want to say with the train, then I would say rongiga. If I want to say in the train, then I would say rongis. First three of these cases are totally random. So this means that you need to learn all of these first three cases by heart because there is no rule that guides their suffixes. But for all the rest of the 11 noun cases, you can make them pretty easily after if you know the first three noun cases. Now, this discussion is very broad. I am still not proficient in Estonian language. In fact, I am still a student, but I hope that gives you a brief idea of why is Estonian so difficult. It's not an easy language to master. Which brings us to the third topic of our today's video, which is, do you really need to learn Estonian if you are here in Estonia? Now, it depends on a lot of different factors, but I would begin by saying that for survival, if you just want to survive here in Estonia comfortably, then you don't need to learn Estonian. In fact, there are many people in Estonia who don't know Estonian Well, there are different reasons for that. There's also a big Russian-speaking population in Estonia, so if you know Russian, you can get by pretty effectively as well. There is a quite sizable number of people who speak English very well. In fact, the bigger challenge that you will face while learning Estonian is that if you want to practice an Estonian with another Estonian, that they would probably start speaking to you in English instead of speaking with you in Estonian. Estonians are also polite enough to switch to English when they are with someone who doesn't understand Estonian, but yeah, that can get a little bit overbearing because you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable and struggle with English if they don't feel like it, and they're doing it just for the sake of this foreigner who doesn't speak Estonian. Do you need to learn Estonian? Now, if you are going about your daily life, then I think you can live by quite comfortably by knowing just a few basic sentences, words that you need to learn and that you will pick up very easily as well. But if you are in a situation where your language requires you to interact with a lot of other people, for example, customer service, or for example, any job related to government or its subsidiaries, then you definitely need to learn Estonian because that would be a very heavy requirement. Mainly the jobs that foreigners have here in Estonia are related to engineering or IT, so there is, well, not very much interaction with customers, so that is why you're able to live by professionally also with English. But I would argue here that if you don't learn Estonian, then there's a very heavy part of Estonian culture, language, population, events that you are missing out on. It's very hard to say specifically why or what, but Estonians are very touchy and very patriotic about their language. If you go talk to someone and begin with an Estonian sentence, no matter how poorly you said it, it will make their day, because they understand, Estonians by themselves do understand that Estonia is such a small country. It has such a difficult language, so any person who has done the effort of coming here and trying to learn the language and express it confidently or even reluctantly, this is something that they should praise. So I would argue that regardless of everything else, whether it is your job, whether it is just survival, it's a great idea to learn Estonian, practice Estonian, because this would open doors for you that would generally not be open for you. To summarize, you don't necessarily need to learn Estonian, but it's way better if you do. Now this brings us to the final topic of today's video, which is how do I learn Estonian language? Now, to give you a personal example, I have studied both in a school environment, collectively with students, and I've also studied on my own with the help of a few things. So I would characterize learning Estonian with two different ways. The first is self-learning, where you learn just by yourself, and the second is learning with a group. Now, in terms of self-learning, there is a certain amount that you can go by. There are different ways to self-learn. I myself personally prefer this app called Speakly. It's made by Estonian developers. It's really, really good. I'll post a link down in the description to help you find it, and you can also get a 30-day free premium subscription if you subscribe using the link that I have put below. It's a really good app. Do give it a try. The second thing that can really help you for learning Estonian in person is probably just watching different TV shows, learning to Estonian music, or generally just listening to conversations that are happening around you. You will pick up certain words and they will just etch in your mind. These words that Estonians use a lot, like no or aga, mitte midagi, mitte kunagi. Yeah, there are so many different words that I don't know the meaning to, but I know what emotion is used when they are uttered. So you kind of pick language there just by absorbing it from your surroundings. The second way to learn any language is of course through group learning, which is way more effective than learning on your own. Sadly, due to Corona, a lot of group classes have been cancelled or they have turned online. Now, there are two types of classes that you can take in Estonia. The first is provided through the integration course, free of charge by the Estonian government. You can register on a website that I will put a link down below. The second way is that you can go to any private schools that are in Estonia quite abundantly. You can go to any private teacher just make sure that they are certified and recognized by the Estonian board. You can find that more in the website innov.ee. And the reason for that is quite simple. If you go to any private school and you pass Estonian language exams, A2, B1 or B2, you are able to reimburse part of your fee. The government will reimburse that to you. And this is one of the reasons why I highly recommend that you don't go to any free courses, but you go to the paid courses that are provided by any private institutions, mainly because I have heard and I have seen from many different sources that these private school courses are a lot better in quality than any free courses that are provided. I don't have any experience with the integration course, but I have good experience with the other private school courses that I currently go to as well. Before I finish this video, I would just like to say that learning Estonian can be a very daunting experience. You see these different words, you see all these noun cases, and you feel, I'll never be able to do that. But just like all the other things that we discussed in the previous videos related to tough weather or the darkness or the food, it can be challenging yet very rewarding experience. Imagine yourself speaking Estonian, even if it's for a little while. And imagine the faces of all the Estonians when you greet them in Estonian, or when you say something very surprising to Estonian when they're least expecting them. I believe that surprise mixed with happiness on their face, that's something priceless. And that makes it all worth it. I wish you all the best. Learn Estonian and head Bye.